Batman Arkham City has a plethora of side missions, but sadly not all of them are made equally. Take Riddler's side mission for example, a great multi-hour spanning quest throughout the city where you can come to truly learn every little nook and cranny of the world while dealing with riddles, collectibles and trap rooms. Or take Mad Hatter's side mission, a beautiful little 10-minute journey into the ever-turbulent mind of Batman as he battles the mind control of Jervis Tetch to avoid becoming his soldier. And then, well, you have side missions like Shot in the Dark, A Fragile Alliance, and the subject of today's video, Watcher in the Wings. Watcher in the Wings actually soft launches itself as early as the opening playable sequence as Bruce Wayne. As when he's being shipped into the mean streets of Arkham City, if we look up during the initial fight with the inmates, we can actually see Azrael, seemingly confirming he knows Batman is Bruce Wayne. Either that or he's just stood there waiting for Batman to walk through the front door with his suit on. Now, while I'll gun for the former of the options, I think this is an important distinction to make. The distinction that somehow, whether through the Order of Saint Dumas or through his own research, Azrael knows Batman is Bruce Wayne. And so for this rewrite, this is going to be incorporated into the story and set up a future arc in Batman Arkham Knight. So I think that's going to be pretty important to remember. Please do me a favour before we get into this though, and hold your comments until the end of the video, because there is thought behind this. I know you might have a lot of questions after this video is over, but fear not. Azrael is a character I deeply respect and love, and he will return in my Arkham Knight rewrite and my original story, Arkham Talon, which will act as a fan-written sequel following the events of Arkham Knight. So while you might think Azrael is different here, at least by Arkham standards, rest assured his arc will be one of the more satisfying in the rewrite series, and I'm very excited to show you all the journey he goes on, because well, I can't give too much away, but it's a fun one, and I think one that respects Azrael, while I put my own spin on him. And if you want to see more of these rewrites, check out the playlist in the description. I've done rewrites for Asylum, City, and a couple of side missions within Arkham City, as well as having written my own side mission for Arkham Asylum, which I'm sure you will love. And no, before anyone asks in the comments, we will never be doing the prequels. Origins, Blackgate, and Shadow will remain untouched. And with that out of the way, let's rewrite Watcher in the Wings. My side mission would open up by the player using a bit of initiative. Right after the Steel Mill dungeon, Batman would be able to head over to the church and find a mysterious emblem on the wall. A symbol he says he's never seen before, but it looks oddly familiar, calling back to his time in Blackgate during the events of Arkham Shadow. And it's here he'd get Alfred on the comms and begin the side mission as Alfred begins researching the strange symbol and its connections to Gotham City. As is the case with all Arkham City side missions, after finding the initial symbol, Tiger Guards would report that Batman had been tearing through inmates on the lower section of the amusement mile. This report would only take place after leaving the museum. This is an important detail since the whereabouts of Batman are crucial to make this work. The report mentions Batman clearing out a small gang of Joker's men and leaving their bodies broken. Another guard mentions how Batman doesn't usually break this many bones, and most concerningly, he certainly doesn't kill. This wasn't in Hugo's briefs on how the Batman works, but the other guard says that maybe, just maybe, Arkham City is finally getting to him. Batman knows he wasn't in the amusement mile since he'd spent the last hour in the museum, and if you've seen the Arkham City main story rewrite, you'll know that while in the museum, Batman went through some serious stuff in here. So while he's being overwhelmed from all sides, he knows for a fact he can't have been who the report was actually talking about. But some doubt does start to creep in. When the player decides to, Batman can head over to the scene of the fight and begin doing some detective work. Batman would find one guy still alive, still clinging to his last moments of life. After walking over to him and kneeling down next to him, he'd ask who did this, and the man would look visibly terrified of Batman. He'd stutter before managing to get out some information, that it must have been one of those Robins or something. The man manages to explain whoever hit them was fast, brutal, and above all else, he made sure everyone stayed down. The thug would eventually succumb to his injuries, and the first section of this side mission would come to an end with Batman getting through to Alfred on the comms that whoever did this wanted to send a message. All of the men here were killed fast, and that meant whoever might have swept through here was trained and trained well. You don't take out a group of men and leave them all dead, with seemingly nothing but your hands without some serious training. There'd also be another symbol here, similar to the one Batman found at the church, something that Bruce would note down. It's worth mentioning that going forward, these symbols will be found at each crime scene Batman visits in the wake of this mysterious killer. After the player does more stuff in the game, Alfred would come through to Bruce and say he found some information regarding the symbol he found at the church. It belongs to the Order of Saint Dumas, an ancient subdivision of the Knights Templar. Batman notes how the symbol's appearance in the city seems odd, and asks Alfred to keep his eye on Tiger comm lines to see if anything else is found out, while also asking him to compare it to the ones found in Blackgate years prior. Soon after this call, the player can find a gang of Two-Face thugs beaten and broken in the alleyway behind the courthouse. Batman can drop down to the street and begin doing some good old-fashioned detective work. He'd note how although most were killed by injuries sustained during a fight, one of the thugs wasn't killed by a product of the injury sustained during a fight. This was a purposeful, brutal display of skill, a death by design, a message. A scan with the deep tissue scanner reveals the thug's spine is snapped nearly in two, and combined with the deep cuts around his neck and head area, he stood no chance. He was messed up way more than any of the other thugs here. Batman once again realises this is someone trying to send a message, but to who? To Tiger, to the leaders of the gangs this mystery vigilante is culling, or, most interestingly of all, to Batman himself? We don't know that yet. But now would be a good time to mention that throughout the missions, I'd take advantage of something I think would work really well here: peripheral horror. Not in the traditional sense, but I'd have the player be able to catch very quick glimpses on rooftops of a mysterious man while doing these missions. You would never be able to get close enough to see him fully or even using detective mode, but you'd know something or someone was watching you from afar. We could even take it a step further and really lean into the old myth of the Arkham City entity through joking voice lines from thugs or from Alfred, and really add some of that classic Arkham Asylum horror into City, through the idea that even when he's alone, Batman is still being watched by someone, whether it be Strange, Tiger, or this mysterious man. This segment would end with Batman telling Alfred to log the incident while noting that the two incidents that he'd seen tonight were clearly connected via the symbols and the methods of killing, as Batman continues on with his journey throughout Hugo Strange's House of Surprises. Our next incident wouldn't occur until after the end of the main campaign. This time, Batman would be alerted to a third incident in the Bowery, this time consisting of the remnants of Penguin's old gang. He'd drop into the subway and find them dealt with, in ways which, after doing some detective work, are similar to how Batman himself would deal with this situation. The injuries are all sustained to the legs, arms, and neck, all points himself Batman targets during encounters. Here though, they're taken to another level. The slash wounds on the neck and chest of the thugs are all designed to kill. Brutal, efficient, and most of all, reminiscent of Batman's own methods. Now, if you'd seen any of the rewrites before, you'll already know that my version of Arkham Batman is a lot more emotive than the standard Arkham Batman. He feels things, he expresses that he feels things, and he's a lot closer to Batman from the animated series and A Serious House than he is to the stoic pillar of Smolder that is the OG Arkham Bats. That being said, here, following seeing these men killed with methods similar to his own fighting style, Batman would begin doubting himself and he would talk to Alfred. Alfred would tell Bruce to brace himself, but presents the idea that there's a chance he did this. The slashes fit that of something like a batarang, and these inmates were taken down in a similar, if not more brutal way, to how Batman himself would take them down. Similar to how Oracle presents the idea to Bruce during the Hush side mission that he is the serial killer in the real game, I'm going to completely nab that and use it here, driving home the parallels in both Batman and this mysterious figure tormenting the gangs in Arkham City. Bruce would obviously push back, telling Alfred that there's no way he could have done all of this, and Alfred reminds Bruce of all he's been through tonight, hence why this part is only playable following the events of the main story. Bruce says he knows that, but this isn't him, it can't be. Hatter's mind control was beaten, the bad blood can't have changed his behaviour this badly in such a small span of time. Batman knows this wasn't him, but it still plays on his mind. Bruce tells Alfred he's going to do some more digging, and it's here Alfred tells Bruce, before he does anything, to check in with Nightwing. Dick can come back into Arkham City and help him to find whoever is doing this. So, with Nightwing on his way, the pair decide to meet on a nearby roof. In the main campaign I wrote, Batman and the Bat family are much more closely interlinked, with Robin and Nightwing taking Catwoman's place in the story. I've also mentioned before how this game is quote-unquote Nightwing's game, with him being the most prevalent member of the family here, while in a future Arkham Knight rewrite, Tim Drake will take the spotlight a little bit more as we introduce more characters and broaden the scope of this universe. Tim is a lot younger here than he is in the real game, and I think in a situation where there's a small possibility he himself could be falling into madness, and thus could step over the line he swore never to cross, I think he'd prefer Dick there to try and stop him than Tim. Dick and Bruce meet, and it's here the pair would discuss what's been going on, and between them realise the pattern. Whoever has been doing this has been tearing through the core gangs of Arkham City. Joker and Harley's gang, Two-Face's gang, and most recently the remnants of Penguin's gang, who took refuge in the tunnels following Protocol 10, and the gang war which took place towards the climax. Nightwing points out that whoever is doing this is trying to, as Batman said earlier, send a message, but also adds that they're trying to prove a point. As they talk, Batman has a brainwave. The only other remaining forces who have any kind of power in Arkham City were Tiger, and they're gone, dusted to the wind and disbanded following the explosion of Wonder Tower. Batman and Nightwing both agree that Tiger might still be the Mystery Man's final target, but where are they? Well, Alfred comes over the comms and mentions that following Protocol 10, most of Tiger's remaining forces headed underground to escape the city, following orders implanted into their brains by Strange during their brainwashing. The only route Alfred finds out of the city that goes underground and connects to Tiger HQ is right below them, so that's where the player heads next, meeting Nightwing there whenever they see fit to continue this mission line. Once the player heads underground and meets Nightwing, who of course shows up after Batman, sans cape, remember, the pair begin making their way through the seemingly never-ending tunnels, and once they reach a door, they obviously enter it, seemingly having found the end of the line. And it's here their suspicions are confirmed. The room is full of dead Tiger guards. Nightwing cracks a joke about how it definitely isn't Bruce. He's been sitting watching his suit's tracker since he came into the city like a kid glued to the TV. Bruce doesn't react and heads over to the guards. Obviously, as you can probably guess by now, they're all dead, some crawling at the walls, their fingernails having made marks in the walls as they try to escape their attacker, and a symbol rests atop the site of their deaths. As Batman and Nightwing begin investigating the area and the symbol on the wall, an unseen attacker takes Nightwing by surprise, throwing kicks, punches, and most dangerously, a sword swing at the last of the Flying Graysons. Nightwing holds his own and Batman jumps in to help, but Nightwing assures Bruce that he can take this guy. The fight is short-lived, with both combatants exchanging blows before they're brought to a stalemate, with the Mystery Man holding a sword to Nightwing, and Nightwing returning the favour with an Eskrima stick ready to plunge 20,000 volts into the attacker's neck. Batman tells Nightwing to stand down, and Nightwing reluctantly relinquishes his Eskrima stick, standing up as Azrael and Dick step back from one another. Batman stares the man down and asks him if he's responsible for the killings tonight. The man sheathes his sword, and Nightwing takes priority, gets straight to the point, and asks who he is. The man introduces himself. He says, "I am Azrael. I was sent here on a crusade to bring true justice to this city you so valiantly choose to defend." Bruce simply responds, "The Order of Saint Dumas," in an inquisitive tone. Azrael looks back at Batman, almost showing shock through his mask, as he questions how Batman came to know that name. Dick, however, dryly interrupts, "You left your logo on the side of a church." Not very subtle. Azrael ignores Nightwing and continues. He says, "I bring a message from the Divine. Dark days are coming, Batman. From the ashes of your mission, the fires will rage and Gotham will burn. And you will burn too. I have been sent to ensure that fate doesn't see it fit to end this city." Batman responds and tells Azrael that he isn't done just yet and that the city is still his. And Azrael responds by saying that the Order have existed for centuries. They have more right to this city than you ever will, and that is why they sent me. I am the messenger God chose to tell you your time is over, Batman. Gotham's evil has flourished under your reign, the wicked have prospered and the innocent have been condemned. Tonight was but a taste of my absolute justice. Nightwing tells Azrael he's had enough of his Soldier of God crap and goes in for an attack, but Azrael is too quick. He sidesteps Dick and launches him across the room, leading to a 1v1 fight between Batman and Azrael. The fight would see the player be basically mirrored. Batman hasn't fully pieced it together yet, but Azrael has been watching him for months, as he's about to find out. Everything the player does, Azrael will counter it. The only thing he can't counter are the gadgets Batman has that Azrael himself does not. So by making use of things like the line launcher and the explosive gel, providing you completed the Deadshot Rewrite side mission prior to this, and the freeze blast, Batman is able to take the upper hand over Azrael, but not for long, as Azrael learns to counter these moves too. The player and Azrael would be stuck in what is essentially a counter fight until a cutscene triggers, which sees Nightwing flying from the ceiling, kicking Azrael in the back of the head and managing to get the upper hand on him. Batman tells Azrael to yield and tells him he's taking him in. He elaborates and recognises that he mimicked his own fighting style nearly perfectly, questioning just who he is underneath that mask. That kind of training takes decades of experience to build up, let alone put into action. Azrael says he is simply a missionary trained to do what Batman can't, protect Gotham and make sure the pits of hell don't once again rise and swallow it whole. Nightwing just rolled his eyes. He further explains that he's studied Batman for years, taking in his methods and learning his every move, training himself for the moment Bruce would see the error of his ways and bestow his mantle onto him. Batman ensures Azrael that he'd never give his cowl to a killer, and if he'd really studied him, he'd know that. Azrael responds by saying that that is why this city will fall, that those men who Azrael fought tonight will never recover and never commit the sins again that brought them to the end of his sword, not like the criminals Batman refuses to put down, who will unleash holy terror on this city time and time again. Batman tells Azrael that this isn't what this city needs, and if he truly wants to defend Gotham, he'd have to protect her and her people, not steal the life from her soul. Azrael would double down this time, saying that absolute justice is more important than Bruce's compassion for those who allow Gotham to be tainted. Further saying that he will prove himself to the Dark Knight one way or another, and he will become the saviour of this city. The Order have foreseen it. These are Azrael's final words before disappearing in a cloud of smoke. Nightwing appears and tells Batman he's fine and he's grateful Bruce took the time to check up on him. He continues by asking Bruce what the hell just happened, clearing up the fact that the religious ninja did just call him Bruce, right? Batman nods, looking a little bit concerned, and he, on the comms, tells Alfred to make sure the Order of Saint Dumas are searched from top to bottom. He wants to know everything about them before Azrael rears his head again. He then tells Alfred to keep the case open and that he's sure they haven't seen the last of Azrael just yet. We fade to black and see Batman and Nightwing standing atop another building. Nightwing tells Batman that if he ever needs more help uncovering the history of Gotham's long-lost cult, to ask Tim instead. That's more his style. Bruce thanks Dick for his help and Dick dives off the building, finishing the mission. That's all for today though. Let me know what you think of this alternate Arkham City side mission down below, keeping in mind that again this is just part 1 of 3 of Azrael's total arc in my Rewrite series, and obviously let me know how you change Watcher in the Wings from the ground up. Azrael is a really interesting character in that he has a lot of fans but not many widely recognised media appearances, with Nightfall and the Arkham games probably being his most mainstream by far. So for a lot of people, the jury is still out on just how good Azrael can be as a character. Anyhow, thank you all for watching, I sincerely hope you enjoyed it, see you next time, and stay safe out there.